have a quick question for you. Have you ever wondered if you have what it takes to live your life without social media? Yeah, you're not the only one, which is why I decided to take my experience from my 8+ years offline, plus the experiences from those of you who are taking this leap right here, right now. I've created a quiz for you to find out if you have what it takes to live your life offline at this point in time. It takes a couple of minutes for you to gain some better understanding around if you have what it takes to live your life offline. You'll find the link to this quiz in the description of this video. I am grateful for the space that I've created for myself to really be me without feeling like I should be like everyone else, or without feeling like I'm so different and like maybe I'm not good enough because what I'm doing or what my life looks like doesn't look like so-and-so online. Hello there, it's Carly Burr, and you are listening to Taking Life Offline. Thank you for being here today, tuning into another episode. For those of you who don't know, I have been off of social media for over 8 years now, and it's really crazy to say 8 years because it's crazy how quickly time flies. I remember sitting down and filming one of my very first videos for YouTube, and the title was Why I Left Instagram, or Why I Deleted Instagram 3 years ago and Haven't Looked Back. So that was 5 years ago. And it's wild because it seriously feels like I just sat down to film that video. I can remember filming that video because I actually filmed it a couple of times before I ended up liking what the outcome was. So anyway, crazy how fast time flies. And in celebration of it being just over 8 years that I've been off of Instagram, I thought I'd share 8 things I've learned from being offline for 8 years. So here we go. First thing that I've learned is that life slows down a bit. It's kind of like when you drive from the city to the suburbs or the countryside, and the further you get from the city, you start to feel like you can take deeper breaths. Life just feels slower when you're not right in the center of it all. That is very much how I feel being offline. I'm only here in my town, in the state that I live in the country that I live in. I'm seeing what's going on in my neighborhood, in my community, and the places that I frequent. So it feels slower paced, not constantly being caught up in what's going on all over the country or all over the world at any given moment. This is actually one of my favorite things about being offline. Life just seems to be getting faster and faster and faster each year anyway. So being offline helps me slow that down. Why would I want to speed up any quicker than it's going, especially after having kids now, seeing them grow month by month, and over the past couple of years, it really feels like time is just flying by so incredibly fast. So I'm gonna do everything I can to slow it down, and being offline really helps me do that. Even if it's just a little bit, that's worth it to me. Number 2, you don't have as many friends as you might think. This is something that I've definitely learned. Sure, you have 673 Facebook friends and 324 Instagram followers, but how many of those people are actually your friends? People you talk to on a regular basis, face to face or over the phone. People who know about your life and know you offline. And guess what? It's nice to have a smaller circle. It's refreshing to know that these people who don't really know me and I don't really know them aren't having eyes on my family and I, and whatever they decide to post today can affect my mood and offset my day. I found that because I have a handful of friends, I spend more time on those relationships, and you really find out who your true friends are. This has made for stronger, more intentional, and more enjoyable relationships. Being offline has also made it so I don't hold on to relationships that are no longer serving me, and vice versa. I've really been forced to hone in on and really take the time to find the people who add to my life rather than take away from it. And that is super important to me. All right, third thing that I've learned in my 8 years being offline is that when people find out you don't have social media, they get a little weird. And I wish this was not the response, because I feel like it's kind of affected some of my relationships and my friendships. And that is actually kind of an indicator to me that maybe this isn't a friendship that I should continue to put that much effort into if this thing makes them weird around me. So anyway, they usually kind of admit they shouldn't be online, but they still are anyway. A lot of people will say that, or they will be like, oh good, that's amazing for you. You know, I shouldn't be on either. I waste so much time on there just scrolling, or I get caught up in comparison a lot, you know, fill in the blank with whatever it is that they personally might struggle with. And it's always interesting to me, and I let them finish out what they have to say. I don't try to push my agenda on them at all. I don't really say much more about it, honestly, unless they ask. So I hope that this response changes someday. I hope more people can wake up and see what really matters and be courageous enough to do the hard thing that they know is best for them, which maybe is leaving. I hope it becomes more of a normal thing to hear, and you're not so caught off guard, you know, like a shock to your system when you hear that someone is not on social media. And I honestly feel like in my interactions, people are like kind of bummed that you don't have social media, because you know if it's someone new that you meet, they want to stalk you and like find your profile and kind of get to know you through that way. So when they hear that you don't have social media, they're like, oh, how am I supposed to like kind of get a feel for this person without being able to stalk what they post online? Half the time when people respond to me, when they hear it on social media, when they respond with like oh yeah, I shouldn't be either, or that's the type of response, it almost feels like they are saying what they think I would want to hear, not, you know, like, because I catch them off guard and it's like they just want to, I don't know, relate in some way, I don't know, but that is usually their response. People just get a little weird when they find out you don't have social media, and I hope that becomes more of a norm to hear that people aren't on social media, and I hope to be part of the reason for this major shift. Fourth thing I've learned being offline is that it's okay to be bored. It's all right not to have something to look at or content to consume when you have a spare minute. Being bored has also helped me to slow down the time and to learn to be okay with the silence. Being a mom of two, I honestly don't get a whole lot of time to feel bored. Spare minutes are very far few and in between these days when you're busy with two adorable children. So I don't have a ton of free time to feel bored. But when I do have the chance, I don't feel the urge to try to connect with the world. I'm okay to just be where I am, here and now. All right, the fifth thing that I've learned is that I really haven't missed anything. I haven't missed a thing. If anything, I've experienced and seen way more being in line with my own life and not everyone else's. This one is huge for me. I've been offline long enough to realize that the things online that you feel like you need to be a part of, but you really don't, they eventually fade away and are replaced by the important things in your life. Things that actually matter and pertain to you, make a difference in your life. This one's big because often people feel like they're gonna miss out not being on social media. And I've heard more times than I can recall from people that take a little hiatus or take a little break from social media, whether it be a day or two or a week or a month or a year, and then they decide to go back. I often hear, I was so worried that I was going to miss out on something, and then when I got back on and I even scrolled back all the way to the day that I had left to try to catch up, I realized that I didn't miss a thing. Nothing important happened while I was gone. And I'm always so excited when I hear that response because it's true. Really, if you give yourself the chance to experience that and you take a little test go at this offline thing and you give it a couple of days, give it a week, you give it a month, and you go back, you will realize that really you didn't miss a thing that changed your life. You didn't miss a thing that was really important. You most likely didn't miss a thing that actually matters. Number 6, you have more free time than you might think. The pockets of time that you would spend online actually do add up pretty quickly. Whether it's 10 minutes here and there, the time adds up. So if you think there isn't time to work on certain hobbies or projects or write in a journal, or whatever it is. When you use these pockets of time wisely, you really feel so much better after those 10 minutes spent well and intentionally, rather than wasting them online or being put in a negative headspace that's totally unnecessary due to something out of your control that you see on social media. This is something that I really am taking advantage of right now, because I'm raising up 2 little girlies and they are my number one priority in my life. So I really have to find these little pockets of time, like when their naps overlap in the middle of the day and I have time to finally eat my lunch, and I will write out episodes for the podcast. I'll jot down thoughts so that when I have more time, I can revisit it later that day. So I've actually been super impressed and surprised with how much I've actually been able to get done with these little pockets of time, just stacking them up on top of each other, therefore proving to myself that I really do have more free time than I think. Number 7, I am more confident and more sure of myself and my decisions. No unnecessary influence or pressure based off of what everyone online seems to be doing, and figuring out who I am and what I stand for and what I want to give to the world. This is huge. I think I've said that with every single one. This is huge. All these things are huge for me and have really shaped the way my life is today. But this one is huge. In a sea of samesies online, it can be really hard to feel confident with being you without blending in with everyone else. It can be hard to form your own opinions and become the person you really want to be when you're online. The influence and the pressure that can come from being online is super strong. It's really crazy to me that so many people are just in so far deep that they don't even see it anymore. Their normal is just to conform and to become what everyone else online is becoming. So being offline, it allows you the space and mental clarity to become more confident in yourself, in your decisions, including the decision that you make to go offline, and to figure out who you really are, your desires for your life, and who you're wanting to become. There are trends and there are all sorts of things that go on online that I don't get caught up in because I simply just don't know about them, because I'm offline, because they aren't available to see with my eyes and to consume and to be influenced by. And I'm actually really grateful for that. I am grateful for the space that I've created for myself to really be me without feeling like I should be like everyone else, or without feeling like I'm so different and like maybe I'm not good enough because what I'm doing or what my life looks like doesn't look like so-and-so online. Last and final thing that I'm going to share today that I've learned being offline for over 8 years is that it gets so much better. You've just got to give it time. Like a fine wine, it gets better with time. You might not feel like being offline is the best thing you've done right now, right off the bat. It takes several weeks or months or however long that period of time might be for you, but I promise you'll get there. With consistency and with grit to see your decision through, you can stick it out and make the adjustments and replace the time you spent online with something so much better. Life on the other side is so much sunnier. It's so much happier, so much more fulfilling. It's simpler. It's more peaceful if you fill it with the right things. So those were 8 things I've learned being offline for over 8 years. And I hope that hearing these things inspires you to want to seek after one or some or all of these things. Like I've talked about before, it takes personal work and honesty with yourself to successfully be able to go offline. I have no doubt in my mind that you are capable of doing it. I'm definitely not an exception. I was a 20-year-old newly married, just wanting the best for my life and for those I love. And here I am, 8 years later, still happily married with 2 beautiful baby girls who I want nothing more than to teach and to be an example of the path less traveled and why it's the way to a more peaceful, fulfilling, simple, yet large life. So if you've ever doubted your ability to leave social media for good, regardless of how many failed attempts you may have under your belt, I encourage you to remember a time you did something super hard, something super uncomfortable that you made it out on the other side of, and you were okay, and maybe even better off. If you can't think of anything, listen to my last episode about long-term perspective, but surely you've done hard things. You've got this. Don't shy away from the thing that scares you. Move boldly toward it with confidence in your ability to make positive change and do hard things. Like I said, if I can do it, so can you. I'm not the exception, but I'm here to encourage you from the other side of the fence to keep climbing, keep putting one foot in front of the other, because you're closer to the other side than you think. All right, it's time for our challenge to take action on today. I challenge you to ask yourself and answer, what's one habit or behavior I can stop doing now that will get me closer to the person I'm wanting to be? That is an important question to ask and answer, because at the end of the week, month, year, at the end of your life, you'll wish you did the hard thing now so that you can set your future self up for more pleasure, peace, for more joy. So I want to share with you how I answered this question, because I'm right here along with you doing these same things. I feel like lately I've been irritated by my interactions with people as I'm out running errands or getting a pedicure. Specifically, a few weeks ago, I had an experience that was actually really kind of frustrating and irritating at the nail salon. So when I left, I went back to my parents' house to pick up my girls. And, my mom's like, oh, how did it go? And of course, I proceeded to tell her all the details about the frustrating experience that I had at the nail salon and the specifics of it, and how I felt just so irritated with the tech who was doing my pedicure. And I honestly do not think that it's bad to talk about your experiences or to express, the way you feel about something. But for me, especially when I'm talking to my mom, I feel like I lead with a lot of negativity. And partly I feel like that might be because she is my mom, so I just tell her the way I really feel about things. I just don't want to be a negative person. I don't want to lead with negativity. I think it's okay for me to tell her about my frustrating experience, but not to live there, not to linger and stay in it for very long, just to get it off my chest and then move forward. Especially when I'm around my kids, because I don't want them to remember their mom, me, as someone who is always speaking about the negative interactions and experiences of the day. So there's mine. There is the thing that I want to stop doing, is leading a conversation with negativity so that I can be remembered and viewed as a positive person, because that's what I'm trying to do. But I know that I'm lacking, and that is one thing that I know for sure needs to change. Now, I'd love to hear what your answer to this question would be. So as you take a few minutes to answer, you might as well send it over to me. My email is carly@carlyburr.com. I'd love to hear what you're going to work on, what habit or behavior you're going to stop doing in order to get closer to the person that you're wanting to become. And I'd love for you to share it with me, because I think it'd be fun to share these things in a future episode so that we can kind of cheer each other on and show each other that we're not the only ones who have things to work on, that we are trying our best and calling out ourselves for the changes that we want to see, because it's not going to happen unless we take the action and first off recognize what needs to change. So send it on over. I can't wait to hear from you. Again, my email is carly@carlyburr.com. I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed hearing 8 things I learned in 8 years of being offline. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave an honest review. That helps me out with more people being able to find us on this path less traveled. So thank you so much in advance. I appreciate it immensely, and I will catch you next Monday.